everyone, and welcome to the Willy Wonka Fibers podcast. My name is Anne, and this is a video podcast about my knitting, spinning, indie dye, and design business, as well as some other crafty things. Today is Sunday, it's November 12th, Sunday, November 12th, 2017. I hope everybody is doing great. I'm recording in a slightly different location for my shop knitting update. We just got the downstairs flooring finished this week, and it's still a little discombobulated down there. We went from carpet to a laminate type flooring product, and it's great and I love it, and it's really helping with like the dust down there. But we didn't have rugs down there since we had carpet and we had that ripped out. So right now everything kind of echoes. It's a huge space and it's very open, and so until I get a couple rugs in there, it sounded too much like a tomb. And there was that really odd tinny reverb happening. So recording up here today, but everything will be its usual, where we're going to talk about fiber crafts such as knitting and spinning. If you are a new viewer, thank you so much for taking the opportunity to check me out. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you as always for choosing to spend a little bit of time with me. I hope everybody is doing great. Like I said, this past week has been kind of unsettled because I moved everything from the downstairs into the upstairs. They did the floors. Now I've got to move everything back down there. So slowly but surely I am getting there, and I'm in the process of sorting as I go. Just things like, I have one bin that is like older utility bills. Some of them are from 2 houses ago, which can go away. But it's just stuff like that you don't, unless you do that kind of like big house clean or move or something like that, you don't necessarily have a reason to purge all of that storage stuff. So I'm doing that, and then I'm also in the process, I had some very old they were IKEA shelves, but they were not the nicer IKEA shelves. They have several rounds of miles on them. I think this is the 4th house we've been in that I've had them in, and I was using them as temporary storage when we moved in almost 10 years ago, and time for an upgrade. So one of the other things that I ordered this week were a couple of new, nicer kind of cubbyhole library type bookshelves that I am committed to getting my stash down to the point that the stash will all fit on those shelves. It's not going to be this month, but it's going to happen. It's going to happen. I'm hoping over the course of 2018 as we move along through the year. So that's a goal. So let's jump into what I'm working on, and we'll talk about some plans and some other things with regards to knitting. I just realized that somewhere, I think it's out in the other room, is a finished hat. I will show that to you guys next time, because now I don't remember what I did with it, because that's kind of where I am right now. Every time I move something, then I can't find it. But I will show you what I am working on. Please excuse this kind of balled up on the needles. I am in the midst of my short rows for the Shawl Collar. This is the Comfort Fade Cardi by Drea Renee Knits. And you guys might remember that I'm knitting this up in my Aislinn DK, which is 100% superwash wool, merino wool DK weight. So the body is done. Here's what it looks like for the whole fade. Now I opted not to do the ribbing down here because the cuffs have garter stitch as opposed to the reverse stockinette. The sleeves have that for their cuff. I just decided I was going to do that for the body too. I like that better than ribbing. So that's what the fade looks like. And you can see I have one sleeve completely done. Just have a few ends to weave in down here. And then I took a break from Sleeve Island, have one sleeve left to do. And I'm working on the collar, which doesn't look like much because it's all balled up on the needles, but you can see it's going to be garter stitch as well. And I have done the first color, color A, and I've started on the second color, and I am working on the short rows for color B, I guess it is the second color. So that is where I am on this. Like I said, it looks kind of odd and misshapen because it's all stuck on the needles right now while I work on the short rows, but coming along, hoping to have that done maybe sometime in the next week or two, by the end of the month for sure. So that is that project. Like I said, I do have one other FO. It's a hat. I'll share that with you guys next time. It's just a giveaway hat. It's a charity box hat. That's the word I'm looking for. Okay, so what else am I working on then? I have put another stash down project on the needles. This is a pair of very basic plain vanilla socks. I just cast them on, so not a whole lot to see. The yarn is from Fiber Nymph Dye Works. It is her Swoosh 2.0, which is a superwash cordale and nylon blend in the colorway Dark Chocolate Sundae. It is a self-striping colorway, so here's the color. And here's where I am. I know, don't go too crazy here. Doing this with the 1x1 twisted rib, and you can see it's whiter stripes of the kind of cherry color, thinner stripes of the white, and then the chocolate brown is also a wider stripe. So those just alternate. So nothing crazy, 64 stitches circumference, just working on those. Kind of out of room for stuff. Okay, so if you have watched me for a little bit, you know that the Willy WonkaPalooza 2018 is coming up, kicking off officially in January. However, I have started to put some things together so folks can start to plan if they are interested in being planners like I am. And so middle of the week, this upcoming week, I will have some pattern suggestions, some yarn color suggestions for the January prompts. So you've got all of December to think about what you might like. The colorways and the patterns that will be applicable for this are things that are colorways with gray in them or lace patterns. And so all of the yarns that fall into the yarn or fiber that fall into those colorways, you get 20% off in the shop. And any of my lace patterns, you also get 20% off for the month of December. So you can order anything you need, and that'll get you ready to start in January, for January 1st. So what I've decided I'm going to try to do is kind of a combination between knitting up some stuff in shop yarn colors to match the color prompts. And then if I finish that project, I'm going to tackle a project out of stash yarn. So for January, the two things I've picked, the first one is a triangular shawl by Vera Valimaki. It's called Bolt. Had this in my queue for a while. I really like this. I think it will be a great just wear with anything piece. I am going to do it in colorways very similar to this. I'm going to use my Aarten sock, which is the merino cashmere nylon blend, and I'm going to do it in Grey Goose and Soot for the two colors. And it's not a huge shawl. I think it takes about 600 yards of yarn. So it's not massive, and there is a lot of garter stitch, but it's an interesting construction. And like I said, I think it will be a great neutral that goes with everything. So this is what I'm using to fulfill the gray category. if if I get this finished in January, then the next thing that I want to cast on is using stash yarn, which I will show you guys. I haven't totally decided. I have it narrowed down to a couple of choices, but if I get this far, I'll show you guys what I'm going to use. So these are my Demeter socks. They are from the first Legendary Knits collection, and I think they are one of the prettier socks that I've designed. I know that sounds horribly self-stumping, but there you go. And they just have not gotten a ton of love. I'm not sure why, but I think they're really pretty socks. So if I get this done in January, then these will be what I tackle next for the lace category. So doing a little planning up front, like I like, and we'll just see how that goes. I will keep you guys posted as always. I don't have really a lot of real spinning to show you guys. Again, because I really have not had space to set my wheel up and spin, but I'm hoping this week to get these singles plied. This was the mixed Blueface Leicester silk blend from Funky Carolina in the colorway Pensive. I think it will be sport weight-ish, but I love this kind of moody broody colorway, and so yeah, that will be hopefully on the wheel this week, and then I hope will be done, and I will have to show you in a couple of weeks. Let's see. Let's talk stitching really quickly, because that is my focus for today, believe it or not. I'm trying so hard to get this finished for so I can get it framed and it can go to my dad for his holiday gift. So close. This is the bottom right here. It's very hard to see, but I have this little patch right here left. That is it. So that is what I'm gonna work on today. I got up early. I did this white section right here. And so yeah, I'm almost there. I love this piece. I think it's amazing. I will be glad when it's done. I'm making a push for the final finish on it because I'd like to get it framed this week, and then it can go off in the mail. So that's what I'm working on this afternoon. You guys will know where to find me because that will be my thing that I'm doing. I should say that I will post links to the patterns I've discussed, as well as the Willy WonkaPalooza info thread in the Ravelry group. And then let's talk books. So I actually have several books to talk about this week. The first one is called Stronger Than Magic, which I finished up not too long after I podcast last time. So this is the first in a series that are about a magic based in the elements. So each person who is magic capable, excuse me, in this, it's not really a fictitious place, but it is. The authors used places in the United States, but they're not places as we necessarily know them. Like, she tosses in Philadelphia, and there's references to Philly cheesesteaks. But there's some, like, it's sort of implied that Philadelphia is on Hawaii. They have the ability to, like, open a time portal and go different locations. So it's a little unclear exactly how far things are from point A to point B, but Hawaii also has some other weird things that aren't Hawaii as we know it. So anyway, the series is based on the concept that each person who has the ability to do magic, and not everyone can, controls magic of a certain element. So the main character's big force is water. she runs into the protagonist of the story, whose power is Earth. So she's kind of the crown princess, our heroine, and I wasn't sure what this book wanted to be. I think that was my biggest problem with it. It had a lot of young adult feel to it, but I don't think it's technically a young adult book. A lot of growing pains, a lot of angst, a lot of I don't know what I want to be when I grow up, a sort of platonic but not love interest, but then all of a sudden the author tosses in this plot twist where the young woman, because she's next in line for the throne, has to start having random sex with people because the magic chair tells her to, because she has to get an heir. I'm not sure I totally bought into all of this book. I liked the concept of it. I think it could have been a better young adult book if they had cut out the whole like needing to have sex with random people. I think it would have improved the story. I didn't need it, let's just say that. So there's some interesting parts of it, but I guess I'm the short version is I'm not totally recommending this book. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. I thought it had some weak parts. I don't think I would recommend it as a young adult book, but it's a little juvenile for an adult book. That's what I think. Okay, next book, Tower of Thorns. The week topic for this one was to use a specific computer-generated suggestion. So there's a link to a certain program, you put in books that you have enjoyed reading, and it kicks back some suggestions. Now, these suggestions are not earth-shattering because if you put in an author, it tells you the other author's titles, which I can find on my own by going to Amazon because it usually says, readers also enjoyed or purchasers also purchased. So the book that I had put in was a book that I read earlier this year. The author is Juliette Margolis, I think is how she says her last name. And it was the one I really enjoyed, which was a retelling of the Seven Swans tale set in early Celtic history. The thing I really liked about this author, and this was true in this next book I read, which was called Tower of Thorns, is that she does a really, really good job of combining actual historic tidbits. She uses the actual legends of the Celts and kind of the Celtic year and the Druids and things like that, and she mixes them with fairy tale elements. So I really like how she handles her books. Tower of Thorns is book 2 in a set. I don't know if there's a book 3, but I did not read book 1 for the record. And I didn't have trouble picking up who these characters were. There is more of a backstory, and I will likely look for the first book in this series because I do enjoy this author. But it wasn't a problem. It wasn't like some series where you start reading book 2 out of order and you think, what the heck is going on? What? Not like that. This was much more organized, much more made sense. You could understand who the 2 main characters, Blackthorn and Grimm, are almost immediately. Like you just understood how they fit into the greater story. So Blackthorn and Grimm have met in the backstory in prison, and they have escaped. Blackthorn is a wise woman, and Grimm has sort of taken on her the task of being her protectorate. They live together, they travel together. There's no real romance going on there, but they obviously have a really strong bond, and they're very good friends. She's a little bit prickly. He's not very talkative. They get along great. She has been asked to attend kind of the local secondary lord. His wife is going to give birth and she's worried about it, so she's asked Blackthorn to come and take care of her at the end stage of her pregnancy. And while they're at court, this young woman shows up with this story that there's this monster in the tower, and it screams all day long, and it's causing their livestock to die. It's causing, people to move from the area. No one can think straight. Their crops are failing. So there's kind of this curse that's been placed on her holdings. And she appeals to the Lord and asks for him to send her help, because there's supposed to be something in the history books from far back that on Midsummer Night, the curse can be broken. So he decides to send Blackthorn because she's this wise woman. And she doesn't really want to go. There's another part of the backstory about why she doesn't want to go, but she does eventually decide to do that. And so she and Grimm set off for this young lady's castle. So there's some aspects of the Briar Rose, Rapunzel fairy tale in there, because it's Tower of Thorns. There's this huge thicket that's grown up around it. There's this thing trapped in the tower. There's all kinds of sort of local lore about it, but nobody really knows what's going on. So really interestingly done book where she's sort of tying things in together. As with many fairy tales, it doesn't exactly have a happy ending, but it has a satisfactory ending. And I don't want to give it away because it's a good book and you should read it. We'll say that. Like I said, I don't think you have to read the first book in the series, but if it sounds like something you might enjoy, you might consider reading book 1 first and then book 2. So anyway, this book 2 is Tower of Thorns. A recommendation for anybody who likes that kind of updated fairy tale, and it not in a Disney way. It's much more true to the original Grimm fairy tales, where things are really not that pleasant. But doing a good deed often wins you out in the end. And then, so I finished Tower of Thorns last week, and I have just started this week a book called The 19th Wife. And this is, for the week topic, a book that you saw a stranger reading. So I'm about a quarter of the way into this book. The author is the gentleman who wrote The Danish Girl, which you may have seen the film of. So I'm not doing a total review because I haven't finished the book yet, but I will tell you a little bit about it, which is that there's 2 parallel stories running through this, 2.5. The first one is about Brigham Young's 19th wife, Annalisa Webb Young, who winds up in the late 19th century divorcing him. And she goes on to be a fairly independent woman and owns property and is a business person, which in and of itself was remarkable for the late 19th century, but also even more remarkable because this was within the Mormon community in Salt Lake City. The other half of the story kind of goes back and chronicles how she got to be Brigham Young's wife, her parents, and how they were involved with the building of Salt Lake and the early Mormon church in Utah. The second story, the parallel story, is contemporary, and it's about this southern Utah sect that still practices polygamy. They are LDS, Latter-day Saints. And the 19th wife of this guy is arrested for his murder. She theoretically has shot him. And her son finds out about this. He's living in California because he's one of the Lost Boys, which if you have read anything about the Mormon sects that practice polygamy still, there are a group of young men basically every year who are kicked out when they reach mid-puberty, and start to be sort of seen as competition for the pool of women to marry. And so basically they're just dropped off at a rest area somewhere and left to fend for themselves. And a lot of them do make it to Salt Lake, and there are support groups and things like that, but not all of them make it to Salt Lake. This young man winds up going to California and basically fending for himself from the time he's 14. He's heard his mother's killed his father, and he decides to try to figure out what's gone on and to help her because he can't believe that she would have done this. So it is a very interesting book, particularly for someone who has lived in Salt Lake and was not part of the Mormon culture there particularly. I think that this author has done an amazing job, at least so far, pulling all this information together so that there's a distinct storyline for both of those stories, and you start to kind of see how they're coming together. But I will, again, reserve judgment until I have finished the book. It's a long one. It's over 500 pages, so we'll see. I may do that this afternoon once I get my stitching done. Anyway, interesting book. I will put links to all of those on their Goodreads pages below in case you are interested in following up on any of them. I guess I should also say that there is a 2018 52 books in 52 weeks group on Ravelry. They have just released fairly recently the 2018 category lists. So if you are interested in doing kind of a book challenge, I have thoroughly enjoyed it. I think this will be year 4 that I've done this. I really like the fact that it prompts me to pick up books that I probably wouldn't pick up otherwise, and it gives me a focus for my reading, and expands my horizons into some things that I probably wouldn't have picked if I had just been left to my own devices. And I find when I'm left to my own devices, I do tend to get kind of in a rut. So this helps me not get in a rut and find some interesting things to read, even under the umbrella of things that are books that I like to read. I'm not, I don't read a ton of things like sort of self-help nonfiction books. I'm just not usually interested in those. And I don't tend to read a lot of history books that are post-World War II. Again, just not something I'm that interested in. And I'm not super into a lot of the sort of apocalyptic, really downer type books. So within the bounds of that, the list still gives you options to kind of let you pick and choose something that you would like. In most cases, you can usually find something that still fits the theme, but that you would be interested in reading. So I will put a link to that group as well below in case you decide that you'd like to check those out. I also have a listing on my blog of the new 2018 topics. So I think that's about it. Half an hour trying to keep this relatively focused and not too long. Until I talk to you guys again next time, which will be 2 weeks, and it will be just after Thanksgiving here in the United States. So I wish all of you here in the US a very happy Thanksgiving, and I hope you have time to enjoy good food with family or friends or both. And so I will talk to you after that Thanksgiving weekend. So everybody take care. Good talking to you as always. Thanks for watching. Bye.